Hello everyone. It is Jackie with Pocket of Preschool, and as always, I am so excited you're here and that you're taking time out of your evening to come join all of us and chat with us. So tonight is all about small group time, and very first of all, in the top of this post, there is a link to a brand new blog post, and I have some idea handouts for you. It has tons of ideas on what you can do for small group and just some tips and tricks, some things to think about as you're planning them. Tonight we're talking about all about small group time. And the first thing everybody always asks is, when do you do small group time? Do you pull kids during center time, or do you have a designated small group time? So I want you guys to tell me in the comments, tell me, when do you do small group time? Do you do it during, do you have small group time and it's just part of your schedule, or do you pull kiddos during center time and do your small group work then? So that way we kind of know what everybody's doing, and it's just fun to see kind of how everybody's teaching out there. So everybody always asks me, when do I do it? Well, I do kind of a combination. Some days I pull kiddos and I do small group with a group of 4. And then some days we do my whole class, which my whole class is a small group. I only have 8 kiddos. So I do all 8 kiddos at once. When I taught full day, and I taught full day in a public school for 12 years, I did small group, and it was part of my day because during small group time, we had 3 teachers. So I made sure small group was a time that overlapped for all the teachers. So that way we had 3 teachers. So it was a designated part of our day, and each teacher took a group, or we divided in half, and I had 18 kiddos. So we had 9 in one group, and 2 teachers in one group, 1 teacher in another, or we divided and each teacher had their own small group to individualize learning. I think either one works, as long as it works for you in your classroom and you're doing small group time. I think that's the most important part. You need to do small group time with your kiddos because it's a great time that you can individualize instruction and meet the needs of those individual kiddos. So I'm actually gonna just start from the top and kind of go down in the notes. That way you guys, if you open that page up or you printed it already or whatever, I'm just gonna kind of go from there. But there's different types of small groups you can do. So you can do ability grouping. So all the kids at high level are in one group, the medium kids in one group, and the lower kids are in another group. That way you can teach those skills to help each one of those different levels. So there's ability grouping. I think that's the one most teachers use, and we use that one a lot. And then there's mixed ability. So when I do art projects, or we do sensory projects, or when we do science experiments, I usually do mixed ability groups. So I'll have 3-year-olds with 5-year-olds, or I'll have 4-year-olds with 3-year-olds, or just so I'll mix everybody up so that way it doesn't really matter because it's a science experiment, or it's art, or it's sensory. It doesn't really need to be grouped by ability. And actually you can see the one right behind me. So and I actually just had them leave it out for today so I could kind of show you guys. So this was our small group today, and it was to make, and we called these trash collages since we're doing community helpers. So, and these are a freebie in my store. So go to my TPT store, and then go to my TPT store and click the category freebies, and you'll see these are the name maps. So here's Tatum's. You can tell she's a pre-K friend. And then here is Jude. He is a 3-year-old. So everybody was at the group together, and everybody did their name collages. And as everybody was gluing, I went around and had everybody tell me the letters in their name, whether using the name card as a visual support, or me saying the letter and them saying it back to me, repeating it after me, or I covered it up for the pre-K kiddos that were at a higher level, and I covered it up and I said, tell me the letters and tell me how to spell your name. So I individualized instruction, but I did it whole group because it was more of an art and fine motor activity as well. So that's what we did today. And then the activity on the table right now is one I've done in the past, and this one I did by this is another, this one I did by, So this one is by, ability. So I did my older kiddos and then my higher level. And this was one I did a couple weeks ago, and it was just these name baggies. I don't actually think you can see it on there, but I just had these hair gel name baggies, and then I gave them. I'm gonna cover up this picture, and then I have the magnet letters in the middle. I have the letters kind of in the middle of the table right here, and they would pick the letter that was in their name. Oh, that's gonna drive me crazy. Okay. Everything's backwards in Facebook world today. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is. So sorry about that. Everything is backwards. So they have their name card, and then they're just practicing writing the different letters in their name. So I have all the little magnet letters in the middle, and they would one at a time get the letters in their name, and they would write. You can see the green one. So like Austin was A, and he would just write the A, and then erase it. And then I could watch and see how they made their letters, and then I could help them start from the top or with some letter formation. So this was more of like a letter formation, like a handwriting type activity. So, everybody always asks me about these bags. So these bags they're like the thicker Ziploc baggie, and then inside is just that clear hair gel from the dollar store, and then liquid watercolor, just a little bit. It does not take very much, or you can use food coloring, and then a little bit of glitter, and then I duct tape the top shut, and then they're kind of like just like a sensory bag. So they love to do this to them, but we use them mostly for writing, so they can write the letters and their name. So yeah, I also do the paint baggies too that you guys know. So here's one of the paint baggies. So the hair gel baggies are squishier than the paint. And I think they work about the same. You don't get as much sensory input when you do the paint, as it's more gooier. Listen, you can like hear it. It's gooier and squishier, the hair gel is. So, and it's fun to do them in Halloween because you can put like little eyeballs in them. Just as long as, make sure when you do any hair gel bags, make sure you don't put anything pointy in them that would puncture the bag. And when you're using these hair gel bags, if you find your kiddos are poking them with their fingernails, give them a pom-pom and have them use the pom-pom, hold on to the pom-pom to make the letters. Because I know some people say kiddos are poking them with their fingernails. So have them hold a pom-pom and then make the letter on the sensory bag. So yeah. So you can do groups either way. So you can do ability grouping or you can do mixed ability grouping. And then you can do by interest. So I do this interest a lot, like if you're doing like a zoo theme or an insect theme. And almost all of my small groups either revolve around their name or the theme we're doing. And I'll tell you kind of what I do for small group in just a minute. So you can do like by interest. So if you're doing zoo and you're doing an activity, maybe you're doing a craft, maybe let them pick 2 crafts to do. If you're working on like a cutting activity, let them pick. Say, okay, you can either pick to do the polar bear craft or the tiger craft. Or if you're doing bugs, you can say, do you want to make a butterfly or a dragonfly? So if you're doing things where you have the option of giving them a choice, always give them a choice, because then they will just love the activity even more. So you can do ability grouping, mixed ability grouping, you can do it by interest, and you can do it by learning style or multiple intelligence. We don't hear this as much, I don't think, as we used to, but maybe some of your kiddos are very musical, and maybe you have a song that you're doing, and you're teaching one group a song for their name, or maybe another group is very kinesthetic, so you're doing like a movement activity for their name. So you can always tailor your small groups to how they learn best. You can also, I don't really use that one very much, because I feel like in preschool, a lot of the things we do are moving and grooving and singing and dancing. So since they can't read or write yet. And then you can also do peer selected. So you can say, okay, you guys pick your own groups today, and then you guys can decide who's in your group. So, you can have a sign-up sheet, and they can just find buddies. And then sometimes especially at the beginning of the year when they are nervous or they're, you know, just like a little uneasy. If you find that they are really like attached to someone, say, okay, you guys get to pick your groups today. You know, everybody find 2 people, and those are going to be the people in your group, and we're going to do, you know, we're going to do letter volcanoes for small group, and then that's who you get to do it with. And then they'll be really, really excited because then they got to pick who they wanted to do it with, and they pick their friend. And especially if it's that kiddo who doesn't talk very much or is super, super shy, they are more, you will hear them talking more and noticing more and commenting more and interacting more if it's a peer that they're comfortable with. So sometimes letting them pick their peers and who they're in their group with is really, really fun. To put water beads in a bag, and you can do like the writing with water beads. That would be really, really fun. I know a lot of people get those clear water beads at the dollar store, and then they put liquid watercolor in them and color them. I think Jamie from Play to Learn, that was, I've seen her do that on some videos and things. So yeah, so but the water beads that are clear at the Dollar Tree, the students cannot touch because there's like chemicals on them or something. They're like a potpourri water bead. So yeah, just so you know, don't let the kiddos touch those. Unless you have the regular water beads that are for the sensory table, the kiddos can touch those. So you can do, and then you can do random. So I don't know if you guys have, like, I do a bucket of names. You can say, okay, today for small group, I need CJ and Charlie and Cassie and Taryn. Okay, these are the people I need first. And then, so it's just random. So you can just, I use these name cards, and these are a freebie in my store. So go to Pocket, my Teachers Pay Teacher store. Again, click on freebies and you'll find these, and you can put your kiddos' pictures on them with their name. Hold on, sorry, just making sure it's still working. And I use this for my random groups, or if I have to pick somebody for things, or for songs when we do music and movement. If they're picking anything, I just pick from this bucket. That way, it's just random, and I'm not, it's fair. I make sure everybody gets a turn. I know some people do like names on popsicle sticks for random groups, or like a random person to pick. So this works for groups too. And now the management tips. So one thing that's super important is to make your activity fun. I know that sounds so silly. So somebody is asking if I rotate groups. I don't, because I make sure I get everybody all in the same day. So some days I do different small groups depending on the kiddos and what the activity is and what they need. And then some days it's like art and we all do it together. So I don't really rotate groups. My kiddos for center time, and I'll put the link in here, it's open center, so they get to pick whatever center they want to play in. So they are playing in the centers they want. So there's no rotation in my classroom. And I know some teachers do that. Like they'll have, okay, you go to center 1 first, center 2, and then center 3 is like the teacher table or something like that. And I know that's a lot. A lot of kindergarten teachers use that too, or like the kindergarten, like there's the teacher table for reading time, or there's a teacher table for writing time or math time or whatever. So yeah, but I don't use a rotation schedule. But thanks for asking. Good question. So, which is perfectly goes right along with the management tips. So kind of pick how you want small group to work, when you want to fit it into your schedule, or if you want to kind of change it based on the day and the activity you guys are doing. But just have it the same. So like my small group time, it's either at the end of centers, or I'll tell the kids, okay, today for small group, I'm going to have you guys come over to me during center time, and center time will be longer because I'm taking some of your center time at the table with me. And then I'll say, okay, today's small group is after centers, and they're used to that now and they think it's no big deal. But I always tell them that before when we're introducing center time. And it's always at the same place. So my center time is always at this table or that table. So it's always in the same place. So if I call their name and say, hey, it's your turn for small group, or after we clean up for centers, they know automatically to come sit at the table for small groups, just so it makes that transition easier. And then you want to always have all your materials ready to go. Like you don't want to be like, okay, come to small group and then go over here and you have to get this, and then go over here and you need to get this, because then they're waiting and then they're bored. And we all know when they're bored, behaviors happen, and we don't want behaviors to happen. So another thing I use for small group to help me with behaviors is I use my mini green and red choice board. I don't have to use it much, but if I need it, I have it. And I'll say, like I have this one, it says learn at group, or I usually don't have that many on there. Like, so I can just be like, oh, remember we use our quiet voice at the table, or, oh, remember it's your job to learn at group, or, oh, please, stop yelling. Or I can just like point to this one and say, oh, red choice, green choice, and I can just point to it. I don't even have to comment on the behavior. So this board is actually, it's just a white piece of cardstock, and then I put a green piece of cardstock and a red piece of cardstock, and then I put Velcro strips on the front and Velcro strips on the back. These are my extra cards, so that way it's not visually overwhelming for kiddos. But this is in my green and red choice, pack in my Teachers Pay Teacher store, and it's like the #1 thing that I've made ever. It's the best. It's the thing that it's what I use for behavior, and it is amazing. But it's basically just a way to talk about how, oh, that's a green choice, that's a red choice, and you're not saying, oh, that's a bad choice, and the kiddo thinks they're bad. You're saying, oh, that's a red choice, let's fix it. Or, oh, change it to a green choice. So a lot of times I don't even like comment that it's a red choice. I'll be like, oh, let's change that to a green choice. And they're really quick and they do it automatically. So I have this with me at small group. If I need it, I can just pull it out and I can just go, or, oh, remember your green choice or your quiet voice, and then we're good to go. So or if you use something different for behavior management, use that and make a smaller one and have that with you for table time. But that way you don't have to like get up and go get something. I know some people put the green choice cards on on a lanyard. You can do that too, and that way it's with you at all times. But whatever you use for behavior management, have one of those visuals for you at small group, so you can cue those kiddos to rein it back in. Because small group is sometimes hard, because like for me, when it's hard, so somebody asked just in the question is, what are my kiddos doing if I'm pulling a group for small group? So they're playing in centers around my room. So like I have art's over there, and then libraries over there, and then behind me is blocks, and then I have over here on this side of me, I have pretend and blocks. So the kiddos are playing all around us, and it can kind of be distracting sometimes, but they know small group, especially if I only pull 4 kiddos, it's maybe 10 minutes. Because if I only have 4 kiddos, I can get a lot of learning in really quick. And we can play a game quicker than than I'm playing it with 8 kiddos. And I do small group every day. I either do it where I pull 4 kiddos, or we do it all at the table. But yeah, I do it every day for sure. And then for small group, I use my assessments and my data to drive what I do for small group. So I have my data binder, and I can link this video on here. But like, let's say I'm like, okay, we need to do a literacy activity this week for small group. I can go, okay, we need to work on letters, and then I can say, okay, these 3 kiddos only know under 5 letters. I'm gonna put them in a small group, and I'm gonna go, okay, these 3 kiddos know between 10 and 20 letters, so I'm gonna put them in a small group together, and these kiddos know either all or almost all of their letters, so I'm gonna put them in a small group. That way I can tailor the small group to meet their needs. That way I'm not boring them with something they already know, or I'm not making it too hard. And what that's actually called is Zone of Proximal Development. It's from Vygotsky. He was, one of the research gurus for education. But he basically says is you have to find their learning zone. For small group, you want their learning zone to be something that they need a little bit of help with, but it's not frustration. So maybe they're doing something that they need you there for, but they can do it almost independently, or it's a skill they almost have. But that way you're there to help them if they make a mistake, and you can build them back up, or you can ask them questions to kind of get them going in the right direction. Or like even if doing these these tracing the letter bags. Like for some kiddos, like especially I have a little lady, she has 9 letters in her name. God love her. I had 9 letters in my name too. My full name's Jacqueline, so I feel her pain, right, learning how to write her name because I remember. But so she's gonna need a little bit more help writing her name than others because she has some of those tricky letters in her name. So I'm gonna be right there when she gets to those tricky letters. I can help her or do hand over hand, or I can do it first and then she can trace it. So she can do it, but she's not frustrated, and she can do it correctly with help. Whereas a lot of people ask me, like, how is table time and small group different? So a lot of it comes down, for table time, all my table time activities are things that they can do independently without help, and it's not frustrating. And I do differentiate my table time activities sometimes, but sometimes it's just open-ended activities. Or sometimes table time is a game we've already played. Whereas small group is when I teach a new game, and then maybe the next morning I'll put that game out for table time. So small group is a time where I teach new skills. It's a time where I help them kind of bump up to that next level, and you got to hit that sweet spot of learning. So it's not too easy, not too hard, and you're right there to catch them if they struggle. And if you see they're getting frustrated, just take it down a notch so they're not frustrated, because we want them to love school. We want them to love learning. We don't want them to be in that horrible frustrated part. You want them to be confident, and you want to make it just hard enough to where it's challenging, but not so challenging to where they shut down and they're done, and then they might have a behavior too. So you want to find that sweet spot for small group. And then for small group, I kind of, at the bottom of the handout, I compare small group to table time, because I do a lot of the same activities for small group and table time, but I will do it for small group first, or the day before, or a couple days before, and then I do it for table time then maybe the next morning. Because the table time is also a good way to review a skill or a game that you've already done. And my table time is out in the morning, so a lot of times that they love showing it off to mom and dad. So they'll be like, oh, like if they love a game for small group, or they are so proud of themselves, they're like, can we do this in the morning for table time? Because I want to show my mom how smart I am. And that just makes my teacher heart so happy. So it's a time that they can show off to mom and dad, and it's a time that they can practice that skill again. Yeah. So everybody's like, she only has 8 kids. So I'm in a classroom by myself. Most days I have a helper with me, another teacher with me 1 day a week. But otherwise it's just me and 8 kiddos. And I used to teach full day, and I had 25 on my roster, but I only had 18 a day. So for those of you who do have 18 kiddos, I do understand how different it is than teaching 8 kiddos. But it is, you can work it. Like, I know you can rock it. Like, you can do it. In the handout, there is a whole entire page of literacy table time activities. A whole page. And what a lot of people do after these Facebook Lives, especially if they have handouts, they hole punch them and they put them in their lesson plan binder or their teacher binder. This is my teacher binder. And I actually put my handouts in my teacher binder too. Like, so don't think that just because I make the handouts that my memory is fabulous all the time. I put these in there for when I'm stuck and I need an activity. So yeah, there's a whole page of literacy table time activities, a whole page of math activities. And then the last page has art and fine motor, and then STEM and science. So you have 3 pages of ideas for a small group. And these are things that aren't related to a theme, like explore letter manipulative. So make letter beads, letter blocks, make letter robots or letter popsicles, or whatever letter manipulative you have in your classroom. But if you are doing let's say you're doing letter robots for small group, what I would have them do first, before they built their little Lego robot, I would have them pick out 4, pick out 5. So many people are asking for a copy of this. If you go to the top of this post and click there, you can download it off my website. So yes, you can totally have a copy of this. So again, just go up to the top of this post, click the link, and then it says click here to download, and you download it right to your computer or your phone, and you can print right from there. So yeah. So and then a lot of these are not theme related, but you can use themed mini erasers, or you can make gel bags that are for your theme. things like that. But a lot of the literacy and math activities I pull from my math and literacy centers packs, and I want to show you a new one. And so I'll give you guys like a sneak peek of the new one. I can't talk tonight. Of the new one that's coming. So like I have next week the new All About Me and My Body, or I think it's Me and My Body is what I'm calling it. Me and My Body math and literacy centers will be coming out, and these are some of the games that are in there, so you get a little sneak peek. So here is a germs spin and cover. So you can either put a clear spinner on here, you can use a paper clip and a pencil, and they spin the spinner, and they put something on the shape to cover it up. And I have 2 levels for this, so then you can have 2 different levels for your groups. And then when I do games like this, I'll say, oh, like they'll be like, oh, I got a circle, and I'll say, okay, everybody find your circle. And then you can take it one step further and be like, oh, what do you notice about that circle? So whereas if you were playing this for table time, they would just be playing it, and you wouldn't know if they were identifying the shape correctly or if they were talking about it. So when you do games like this, simple games like this for small group, make sure you're asking those questions to kind of bump it up a notch. So take it into that where it's a little bit challenging. So you might be like, oh, or what things do you see in our classroom that are round like a circle? Oh, you see the button on your friend's shirt, you know, things like that. So kind of take it up a notch. So this is a fun game that's going to be in the new centers pack. And then you can play rhyming games, because our kiddos, sometimes I find with rhyming games, even though our kiddos have a great vocabulary, sometimes it is limited based on their experiences. So you might put a rhyming game out, but they may not know what some of the words are. Like, this is a hen. A lot of preschoolers are going to say this is a chicken. And they'll be like, chicken doesn't rhyme with pen. You can be like, okay, what rhymes with pen, 10, and then, or before, you can be like, okay, let's go over all the words first, and then you can play the game. And then you can also, like, this is the Band-Aid, or I think I call it boo-boo rhymes. So like I have, this one's 10 pen hen, and hug, bug, mug, star jar car. But you could also either do the recording page after you play the game, or so maybe you're playing this rhyming game, maybe you could you could either write it down, or you guys could say, okay, let's think of all the words that rhyme with car. Car, star, bar, lar, mar, far. And you can even make up some of those silly nonsense Dr. Seuss rhymes. So you can just take it that one step further, whereas if they were just playing this game independently, they wouldn't be doing that. And then somebody said, okay, so I started a sentence about letter robots. So let's say you're playing with a letter manipulative, like letter robots or letter popsicles. Before they start actually playing, I would go through and I would talk about the letters. So I would say, oh, what letter do we think this is? Oh, it's A. Does anybody have an A in their name? Or what sound does A make? Ah. So maybe you have, because I usually, when I put out letter manipulatives, I usually don't put out the full alphabet, just because that's too much, one, to do for small group. Small group's too short, or it's just too overwhelming from like a pre-K kiddo or a 3-year-old, or especially the 3-year-olds. So if you only have a couple letter robots out, go through and say the name of each letter and the sound it makes, and have them echo you. Be like, okay, so this one's A. What letter is it? A. And you can be like, A, ah, and then they can echo it, A, ah. And then they can play with the letter robot. So they're playing with letter robots, or they're playing with letter popsicles, but you're taking it one step further and getting them to talk about the letter. You're getting them to say the letter sounds and things like that. I love it when you have them echo you, because especially with 3-year-olds, they're not going to know the sounds, but they're going to at least start making them with their mouth, because as we all know, 3-year-olds, some of these letters are really hard to make, or they can't make them yet. Like some of the sounds are like a 6-year-old sound, so they won't be able to make them yet. But they're still making the sound, so that way later when they're like, oh yeah, that's apple, they can be like, oh, A. They might be able to pull it out of their brain, and that connection can be made then. So even though they're not ready for it, you can still have them practice making those sounds, even the 3-year-olds. So yeah. Oh, so Lego robots, they're like little Lego letters. They're like Transformers, somebody said. So yeah, that's a good way to describe them. And I will put a link. You can get them on Amazon too. And if you go to the top of this post and click on Amazon links, I have them linked to my Amazon little storefront too. So somebody's asked, Shelly said, do I have kiddos use number or trace worksheets? I do a little bit, just so when they go to kindergarten, they know what a worksheet is and they know how to use them. So I don't do much tracing worksheets. I do put them in like a dry erase pocket, or like here's a like a number tracing game. So if we do trace the numbers, I usually try and have them build it some way. This is from my community helpers game. So they would trace it and then they would have to build it with like counters or something, build it in the 10 frame. So I don't use a lot of worksheets. So instead of the worksheets, we do like the hair gel bags, or we do the paint bags, or we do like sand. We have them write them in the sand trays. And this is just a wooden tray from a lacing set. And then this is actually colored salt that I dyed. It's just with liquid watercolor, and I put a little bit of glitter in it. And if you don't have these trays, you can use those kid divided plates, or just any like pan or thing. How long do I schedule for small group time? So it really depends on the activity. If we do it all together, I think I have like 15 minutes in my schedule for it. And it really depends. Like this activity took longer than I thought. So when some of the kiddos were finished, they actually went around and they helped their friends who weren't finished yet. So this activity actually took the whole 20 minutes. But usually at this point in the year, I try and keep my small group around 10 to 15 minutes just because of their attention span. And when I pull kiddos individually, like if we're playing like this Band-Aid game, I just, whenever the game's over, it's over. So maybe like, 10 minutes-ish. So yeah. All right. So some other fun activities you can do for small group are, you can also do, and these are free in the group. These are the mini eraser. I try to remind you guys of the freebies that I have. That way you guys can take advantage of them. These are the mini eraser Build It cards. They're free in the Pocket of Preschool group, so make sure you join that. So I just have a giant tub of mini erasers that I keep out for stuff. And they basically just make the letter with the mini eraser. And as they're making, or as they pick a card, I'll say, oh, what letter is that? And they'll be like, R. If they don't know it, I'll be like, that's R. And again, they can echo it, things like that. I also have, and included in these, there are also 10 frames. So you can play like 10 frame games. And like this one I showed you, you can play, games that come, your printable games for math. I also do name crafts. So if I do a craft, I do a lot of the crafts are in small group because crafts are sometimes kind of tricky. And it's hard for them to follow directions. So I do like a lot of the crafts for a small group. And this is in my school centers pack. Oh, somebody says, so where's my shirt from? This, I'm trying to remember. I have a lot of teacher t-shirts. I want to say this is Teach, Create, Motivate. I'll put a link after this to it. But it's, do you like my shirt? I love her shirt. She has like one a month she comes out with, and they're too cute. I'll put a link to her, her t-shirt store in the comments after we're done. And then you can also do math small groups. So this was one we did during our construction theme. So they put some tape on the paper and then they measured it with cubes. And this was a pre-K friend. And then my little friends, this is a 3-year-old. So they actually didn't measure it. We were just, when they put it on, we were just like, is that piece a short piece? Is that a longer piece? Is it shorter or longer than the green one? So we were just talking about shorter and longer. But I did 2 different groups because I had 2 different levels so we could have 2 different conversations. Yeah. So yeah, so what I hoped that small group help, or the little Facebook Live on small group helped you and gets you excited about small group time and gives you some ideas, because as teachers we get tired or maybe we're doing lesson plans and life happens and we just can't think of something, or we have so much paperwork to do and it's hard. So make sure you guys download this ginormous list, this like 3-page list of all of the small group activity ideas. And there is a link to, oh, this is what we did this morning for table time. But there's a link to the name mats, and you can print them on colored paper or white paper. And we're just doing uppercase because it's the beginning of the year. You can always do lowercase. And there's also a link in the handout to these name cards too. That way you can grab those and make those for your kiddos. Oh, somebody says, how do you get the mini eraser freebie? So I will put a link in this post. But otherwise, if you go to the Pocket of Preschool Facebook group, click on files, and it's, you know, if you're on mobile, there's like a slider on the tabs on the top of the Facebook group. You click files, and there's like a whole list of freebies I have that are just for the Pocket of Preschool Facebook group. There's like a train name freebie, I think a snowman name freebie, or name craft freebie, mini eraser freebie, I think my Play-Doh recipe's there, all kinds of good stuff. Oh, the link for this small group activity list is at the top of this post. So after you're done, click the top of this post, it'll take you to my blog and you can download it right from there. So yeah, that way you don't have to wait for an email or anything, you can get it right now. Alrighty, but yeah, I'll go through and answer any questions that I missed because they were coming kind of fast tonight. So I hope you guys have a fabulous night. And if you want to keep talking, hop over to the Pocket Preschool Facebook group, and I will see you guys there. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us. Bye.